Hi, I'm Fred Huey, host of the Backroads and Byways podcast series designed to highlight individuals, places, and events that make the Midwest special. We're brought to you by Bellino Fireworks. Fireworks season is right around the corner, so look for the Bellino inflatables. They have stands in 6 states, so you have plenty of opportunities to get your fireworks. Joined today my guest is Amy Hornocker, the Executive Director of the College World Series of Omaha, Inc., talking about events that make the Midwest special. I think you have to argue that the College World Series is probably the largest sporting event in the state of Nebraska. So, Amy, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, glad you were able to make it.
Yes.
And always with my guests, I start off with just asking for a little bit of background so our viewers have a sense of who you are and how you got here.
Okay, sure. I have a little bit of a unique story as it relates to the College World Series. So, I grew up over in Des Moines, and I went to school right by the state capitol over there. And in Iowa, you play summer baseball. So I was the manager of our high school team, and we went on a trip to Sioux City to play up there. And then on our way back, we stopped at the College World Series when it was at Rosenblatt Stadium, if that ages me at all. So I got my first taste of the event then. We sat in the outfield bleachers, got sunburnt, all the ways that you get your first taste of the College World Series, met the guy that gives out the beads, those kinds of things. And then I went on to college. And I got into the sports management field and worked in the football office in Ames. And my sister was over, her husband was at Offutt Air Force Base. And so I was like, I never stopped thinking about the College World Series. So I applied for the spring internship that we have annually, and I had a free place to stay in Bellevue. So that's kind of how I started my career with the College World Series. I later was on staff at the Omaha Sports Commission, had the opportunity to help put together 3 Olympic swim trials and a number of other sporting events, and then came back to the CWS staff in 2017, and then have been here ever since.
I think those of us who have been involved with the CWS for a while are glad you are here. And,
Thank you.
Even though you're a Cyclone fan.
I always say that I can't, but you guys, I can never have my alma mater here. They don't have a baseball team. So
well, who knows, maybe someday they'll start it.
Yeah.
Or restart it. I know years ago they did have a team. So
yeah.
Okay, this is an exciting year, the 75th College World Series in the city of Omaha. So what are some of the events planned for this year?
Yeah, we're excited to have, obviously it was elsewhere 3 years before, but we're not sure anybody remembers that. So it is the anniversary here in Omaha. But the big event that we are really excited about is on Thursday, June 12th. And it's kind of the kickoff to the College World Series. So it's a community event at the Jean Leahy Mall on the riverfront. We're working with the riverfront and their beautiful new park. And we'll have concerts, food trucks, and then, everybody's favorite fireworks. And we want to invite everyone out from the community that's meant so much to this event.
Well, we won't mention rain because I know opening ceremonies have been notorious for having some challenges.
Yeah.
And you and your team have dealt with that quite well over the years.
We're hoping that we can get it out of our system, and at least if we could just have some luck on our side for Thursday, because we also have another team event elsewhere at the same time that's also outdoors. So if everyone could just say a little prayer about the weather for Thursday, that'd be great.
Hope the baseball gods cooperate.
The baseball gods.
So over the years, you've seen some changes in the series. So what have been some of the changes that you've liked? Anything that's challenged you? Surprises? Maybe let's go a little bit behind the scenes of some of the work that you do during the series, and you've got a staff that does a great job. So
Yeah. So I think the biggest change, and, like I said, I was an intern at Rosenblatt, but I wasn't on staff for the transition to the new, we still call it the new because we think it looks new, ballpark in downtown Omaha. So that was, I think, one of the most recent, I guess to say, significant changes to this event. The people that had been to Rosenblatt know it was definitely, it had its quirks. It also had its really cool things. But in order for us to elevate this championship, we had to look, for bigger and better. And I think what's been cool to see is I think the purpose to build the stadium was not only to be a really great home to the College World Series, but it was also to help the North Downtown develop. And I think we see something new down there every year pop up for our visitors and even just our locals to enjoy during the College World Series. So just the atmosphere down there, you don't have to necessarily be a baseball fan to come down and enjoy all the fun there is to be had.
I know several people that will just come and hang around Baseball Village, do not have tickets, don't necessarily want tickets, and but yet will take advantage of all the activities outside the ballpark. So I think you're right there, and there's been a lot of changes in NoDo, North Downtown, that I think the stadium has brought. I know there's still fans that miss Rosenblatt, but like you described, there were some quirks and unfortunately some things that didn't quite meet the modern standards of collegiate baseball. I know that being a team host, we saw a lot of the underneath of Rosenblatt and how it was aging, not necessarily well. And I think Schwab Field is a great addition, not only to the community, but for this event. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then some of the other changes, obviously, that have been a little bit of a change that, some things that are growing, evolving. A lot of these things kind of were due to, the COVID. We all adjusted to the COVID year. I think the mobile ticket that we were already trying to transition people to that mobile ticket, and then COVID kind of expedited that. We didn't want a lot of paper tickets out there. There's a lot more ability to have those be scalped than our mobile tickets. And then also the traditional general admission section that went away. And it's now just a seated reserve seat. So that is another change when you can buy those books and just stand in line for hours at a time. We kind of found out after that first year of doing it that people didn't necessarily know what they were getting when they bought those. And so, we thought we'd hear a lot more disappointment, and we do, but I think a lot of people are glad to have a guaranteed seat.
That's, over the years, the biggest thing I ever heard. And, of course, aging myself, I think the first ticket book I sold was $20 back in the late 80s. So there's been a lot of changes. But, we have somebody stand in line for 4 hours and not get in. That is disappointing. They think they've got a ticket. They've paid, granted, at a discount price, but I think the concept of having the full reserved assigned seating has been a very positive. I'm sure there are traditionalists that may argue with us, but I think it's a good decision and a good way to go. So. Yeah,
and we made a concentrated effort. I know people will say to us, what about those youth teams? That's usually who occupy those outfield. And we have made a concentrated effort to work with those groups coming in because they are our future fans. So we still do sell the majority of those tickets to the youth tournaments in those teams that are here or even local that are playing in those events. So that's been cool to do.
Yeah, it's nice to see those young kids out there and trying to catch home runs. And of course, sometimes it's a challenge at Schwab because of the way the field plays. And I remember the year UCLA beat Mississippi State. I hosted Mississippi State that year, and there were a lot of long fly balls that would have been out of a lot of parks that were caught on the warning track, and so there was a lot of disappointment. But that's part of baseball. I mean, it's I think one of the unique things about baseball is that no two parks are alike. So you have challenges, you have quirks that you need to adjust to, and that's part of being a successful franchise team. And so. Looking at the field being now set down to the final 16, any surprises there?
A whole lot of surprises. I was talking to the NCAA folks yesterday. It has been as wild as any regional round that they can remember. A lot of upsets, especially from our traditional power conference that we host a lot. So reality is that we could have two teams from the SEC here when last year they were half the field. So it's been fun to watch. We'll have likely a lot of new faces. and or faces we haven't seen in a while to celebrate 75 years with. So looking forward, we just put those super regional brackets and game times out this morning. So we'll follow along and see who we get.
Should be exciting. It's, you know, and I think Omaha embraces the underdogs. I mean, it's, whether it's a Stony Brook or Kent State or, you know, I think this year Murray State, the University of Texas at San Antonio. I know I've had people saying, what the heck is UTSA? If you don't follow it, you aren't going to know. But, you know, whether they make it or not, I mean, it's like you said, I think some teams have not been here for a while. So should be exciting to see. I know there was some criticism about this becoming like the SEC tournament. I think there were 13 teams in the bracket, and only 4 are making the super regionals. So, you know, process of elimination, it'll be a lot of new faces.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun because we're seeing. I mean, you're not necessarily seeing Power 4 either. So it's really cool to see some of these teams, and we're excited for whoever gets here.
Should be a fun weekend of super regionals, and hopefully by this time next week we'll know who the 8 teams that are coming.
Hopefully.
Again, the weather gods cooperating at the super regional sites. So,
sure.
You know, I'm kind of a foodie, and on my personal social media I always do a hashtag Food with Fred, which is something I started during the COVID to promote local restaurants and stuff. So, ballpark food. Everyone has a favorite. One, do you have a favorite? And are you aware of any of the new things that will be added this year?
You know what? They've been keeping it a secret. So we have our concession unveiling on Wednesday, June 11th, right before the series starts. And I haven't seen or heard anything. I know that they were looking at, you know, capitalizing on the anniversary. So we'll see what comes out of that. For me, I always have to have a ballpark hot dog. I kind of already had mine, I think, for the year. I went to Big Tens and I just couldn't wait. But also, I'm a big fan of like that funnel cake and those like mini donuts. It's a weakness.
Sugar high. Yeah. So, that actually amazes me. I didn't think of you as a funnel cake type person.
I don't know. I think it just goes back. I'm an Iowa kid. I went to the state fair and
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs. Yep.
What kind and how do you dress them up?
Just the regular, but I know it's unpopular. I put ketchup on there, not mustard. Some people are just not happy about that.
Purists will be going nuts. But
so
you know, to me, a good hot dog is whatever you enjoy. So
right.
I know out at Warner Park they've got like a Subway sandwich type thing where you can put different toppings on it.
Oh, nice!
I've seen some interesting combinations on hot dogs that I would personally probably not eat, surprisingly. But, you know, hey, if you enjoy it, go for it. So,
Fred, what's your favorite?
Oh, that probably a Chicago dog.
Yeah.
The traditionalists, you know, sometimes a good Chicago dog is hard to find because of supply chain issues and, you know, not everyone can get the poppy seed buns, and some of the peppers are short, and but we'll see. It, you know, a lot depends on again what team I'm assigned to, and you know, I know it's either going to be Oregon State or Florida State, but their time requirements of us sometimes cut into my eating, which is probably not a bad thing. But you know, again, looking forward to welcoming a team, you know, like all the civic clubs and. Why don't you talk about the service clubs a little bit? So
we have pretty much, I think it's a unique thing. We've had a lot of other cities that have hosted events ask us a little bit about how we handle the team host. And service clubs is basically what they're made out of. So, right, you guys then, you know, we have Rotary, we have Offutt Air Force Base. So there's 8 groups from in town that have hosted events. Some of them longer than I've been on this earth. So some of the same guys. So there's a lot of experience, which is good, especially in the field that we have potentially coming in here. Because we have, again, some people that will need a little more guidance than some of the people that have been here before annually. So basically the team hosts, you're the first, you are the welcome to the second they get here, they see your face, and then you're their contact throughout, and you get to host a special event for them. And you're just kind of their line to all things Omaha.
Yeah, so hopefully I know we're rated by the teams, and I think most of the ratings work out pretty good.
Yes, big fans.
So it's nice that our efforts are being appreciated by the teams. It's always interesting when you have teams that have not been here. Makes it a little bit easier on us as a host because they don't know if we're doing good or bad. I shouldn't say that, but you know.
Yeah, I just feel like for some of them, especially the underdogs who get a little bit, you'll definitely have to guide them a little more. It's a big stage to walk in on, and a lot thrown at you right away.
I know our very first team I hosted was back in 2004. Had been, like I had mentioned earlier, involved in selling general admission ticket books since 1989. Baseball fan. Red Cal State Fullerton. Their operations gentleman it was his very first year. It was our first year. We worked through it. They actually ended up winning it, which was totally a shock. And that was a situation where they reminded me that their total athletic department budget was smaller than like Texas's TV revenue.
Yes.
And so it's like, hey, anything you can do to stretch per diems, and so we worked with them, but they had a good time and a long stay. And I know they had rented a brick house across from Rosenblatt, became the Titan House, which after they won it, they took the trophy over there, and we actually ended up parking the bus on some guy's lawn.
Oh, geez.
Omaha police were very helpful in getting the bus across 13th Street into the yard.
Yeah, well, that's good.
So, but we were fortunate having our first year out of the gate having a national champion. And then we actually followed up in 2005 with Texas, Augie Garrido's last national championship. That was ours too. So caught a lot of good-natured heckling from the other team hosts on how the rookies get. I remember going in. Rice was our third team, and it's like, well, what are you thinking? I said, I'm thinking three-peat, and they booed and hissed me. But so it was all good fun, banter, and I developed a lot of friends amongst the host committees, and I guess I consider you and your staff almost family. So,
yeah, I think it's just another piece of this event that people may not know about, right? And there's just it's a big lift for this community. And when College World Series Inc., our main job year round, we have 5 staff here, is to help make sure this thing run smoothly, but we have so many partners, and I think you see that as a team host. Like, I can't give a shout out to like our airport and like our bus, the Aero Stage Lines, who handles our bus, because like these teams last year, there was a picture that I saw. 4 of them were here at one time, and so they fly private charter. They don't go through the terminal, so they're all unloaded.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and put on buses. And when there's 4 at the same time, that is a big...
That was... our team was one of the 4, and it was an interesting logistical...
Yeah.
I don't want to say nightmare, but again, the airport folks do such a great job in coordinating. I mean, because you think about it, you bring a bus, an equipment truck, and some private vehicles out on the tarmac, so trying to get 4 different groups meeting 4 teams at pretty much the same time, there's actually some risk with the vehicles, sure. And of course they're trying to get the planes refueled, and so that's one thing I guess amazed me over the years are the planes that they come in with.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the year we hosted Rice, they came in with the Cleveland Cavaliers jet. Well, you had seats designed for 7-footers, plenty of room, card tables between the seats. And one of the players said, we really didn't want to land. We wanted to circle Omaha so we could just enjoy this. And
well, that's nice, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was Texas Tech that they left on the U2 concert jet.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out where Bono sat, and TSA threatened to tase me if I got close to the plane. So,
yeah.
But... that's a lot of the moving pieces, like you said. I mean, getting the Omaha police to kind of inspect the vehicles before we go out on the tarmac. I know one year there was actually one of the bomb-sniffing dogs named Fred.
Oh, yeah, I remember Fred.
And so the officer's like, come here, Fred. So I went over there, and he kind of looked at me a couple times. Then he finally saw my name badge. He goes, this Fred is the one I really want. So,
That's great.
But I told him I would work for treats, and I was very obedient. So, but those are the fun events that people don't see, and getting the teams in and working with the hotels, making sure that everything works well in the check-in. And I know years ago, I think it was Mississippi State, they came in early. We took them to Rosenblatt. They were still early. The hotels, the rooms weren't ready. I ended up taking them to a local restaurant. So can you imagine a restaurant getting hit with a traveling party of 55 for a rather quick, impromptu lunch? So actually, I guess I'll give a shout out to Casio's. They were the restaurant, and they got us in, accommodated the team, and but that's the type of things. And I think Alfie up there wanted a signed T-shirt, which we provided him. But I think people throughout the community do embrace this event. So.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people that will call, something comes up. I mean, we had I think this was 2 years ago, an umpire mask broke, and there wasn't a black thread to be found in that whole building. And so I'm like, who do I call? So I call Jenny Peters over at Omaha Baseball Village, and I'm like, by chance, do you have black thread? And she's like, hey, we have these vendors here that sew wallets. And so we run the mask over and they fix it. So it's just, there's so many people like that are just willing to do what it takes. I mean, we have 2 host institutions now. Creighton has been our longtime host, and we added University of Nebraska at Omaha this year. They've been helping for a long time, but they do a lot of things, including team laundry, like the stuff that people don't, maybe not the most attractive things. There are people out here that are willing to do it to make us put our best foot forward.
Remember the year we hosted Kent State? They won in an upset out at Oregon. The Oregon folks weren't happy and apparently shut down their laundry. So here was Kent State with no way to get any laundry done. They actually came in early because the dorms in Ohio were already shut down. So it's like, do we fly to Ohio and put them in a hotel, or do we just come straight to Omaha? So they came in early. And UNO, I know, was very helpful. Just even helping players find the local Walmart to buy clean underwear. I mean, just people like, really? It's like, that's the host will do whatever's needed, and it varies every year by each team. And I know each of the 8 groups have stories every year. There's, things that were very interesting and unique. But so with mentioning UNO, how does their role? I mean, they have been helpful. Like I said, they've always taken care of, practice facilities, workout facilities, laundry facilities. So, what is there anything changed, or what is just recognition of their previous efforts? Or
so people don't know, in order to host an NCAA championship, you have to have a member institution attached to it. So Creighton has served in that role since 1950, and like we said, UNO has been helping. And it's just, as this thing continues to grow, we need more resources. We need more people. It's the longest championship that they have it's 90, soon to be 91 championships, because they added women's wrestling. But we just need, they'll help, it's obviously our primary practice field at this point. They do laundry. They are actually helping us with bad testing. And they'll do, we have both schools helping us with media coordination, because there's just a lot of media that come in.
Oh, yeah.
And so the sports information directors from both schools are really good at helping the NCAA team. So
great. So
yeah.
Well, I know you have a lot on your schedule, so we are going to take a break here, and we're going to be joined by Herb Hames, a longtime volunteer ticket chair and a member of the board of the College World Series, Inc. So again, Amy, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be seeing a lot of you at Schwab Field here shortly.
Yep.
And thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
So,
thanks for having me.
Okay, we're back with the second segment of our College World Series special on the Backroads and Byways podcast. Again, I'm Fred Huey, and now I'm joined by Herb Hames. Herb's kind of a legend around the College World Series. He's been a long-time volunteer ticket chair. He was my boss for a good number of years when it came to selling general admission ticket books. So, Herb, welcome.
Well, thanks, Fred. You remember those early days in 1989 when a book of general admission tickets went for $20?
Actually,
Savings of $10. Can you believe that?
yeah, Amy and I discussed that on the first part of the segment where, it was amazing, but like everything else, there is inflation and,
Yeah, we're even digital now. I can remember we have to give discounts to season ticket holders in order for them to convert to digital from paper tickets. But it's come a long way when it used to be cash and check only, no credit card way back when. So, yes, I guess you'd say that after all these years, I am a veteran. I actually was able to, in '89, when ESPN took over, we had to have a sellout or otherwise the game would be blacked out in Omaha. So I kind of fudged once in a while on our sale of general admission tickets so we would have a sellout so the game would be on TV.
That was one of the challenges of the GA ticket books was, you didn't know what games they were going to be used. I mean, in a way, that was one of the positives of them. I know when I was selling them and just like, okay, I don't think I can go to 10 games. You don't have to go to 10 games. Go to one game and bring 9 friends, or a couple can go to 5 games, and gave a lot of flexibility, but change is all part of life.
We had a lot of parents that just bought them for their teenage kids who really weren't about watching the game as much as socializing in those bleachers, and they did have a lot of fun doing that. But, those general admission ticket books, the sales brought in, average revenue from them was over $1 million a year, and back in the days, that was pretty good considering the tickets weren't that pricey. But this is an event that Omaha's embraced, and can you believe it, 75 years. And it grew out of the corporate support where, the College World Series lost money 10 out of the first 12 years. But it was corporations like Union Pacific and Mutual of Omaha and others that kind of decided that we'll buy the tickets and give them to our employees to go. And after that, it just took off.
Yeah, it's had a tremendous run. So Herb, I always on my guests kind of ask for a little bit of background. So I know you're originally from the Chicago area, I believe. So why don't you tell the viewers?
Okay. I grew up in a small town about 90 miles outside of Chicago, but I ended up at Creighton University. And before I ended up at Creighton University, I came to Omaha by train when I was 16 years old. And one of the first things I did, a friend took me to the College World Series. And that was, whoever thought I would be getting involved all these years later. But that first time where we sat, the general admission back then, there were no bleachers. There was just the one, basically stadium seating right behind home plate. And as long as you were above the pillars, you were in general admission. I never forgot that. And coming back to Creighton, undergrad and law school, and then going to work for Mutual of Omaha. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. In 1989, I was active in the JCs back then. And Catherine Morrissey worked at Mutual, and she recommended me to the chairman. The chairman's office called and said they'd like to see me, and I was worried whether I had a job or not as I went up to the chairman's office. But it turned out they wanted me to be representative of the ticket selling aspects through the volunteers that were recruited. And back in those days, you were incentivized by the way of getting a jacket or a hat or being able to get some tickets on the side, but that was about it. You really kind of got involved for the love of the game. And a social person like you, Fred, got a chance to get out there and bug all your friends every year, and that's what you did. And so we had groups of service club people, we had regular individuals who promised to sell 100 books, and that was like nirvana. If you could sell 100 general admission books, you were doing really good, and you were treated really special. But the one thing about my background was that I came to Omaha to go to Creighton University. I fell in love with the city, and I stayed. And the one thing that really I look forward to every year was the College World Series. And to this day, all these years later, I've really enjoyed my involvement and seeing how this thing has grown and the cooperation between city and county and those kind of things. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's been a event that's been embraced by the entire community. We were talking about different groups, whether it be the service clubs or the corporations or just even kind of volunteers on the street or even people helping out. You never know what's going to happen when you have 8 teams in, and I think the ESPN coverage has kind of changed the the world of the College World Series. I remember back in the 60s when I was quite a young man that, Dad would come home from work and say, hey, let's go to a ball game. So we'd go down to Rosenblatt and be able to buy one of those GA. I do remember the upper grandstand seats being the GA seats at the time. And, it was just, I think a lot of families, of course, back in those days, there truly were regionals. So you saw teams like the Maine Bears, and I remember the Southern Illinois Salukis made it one year. Now the regions are not really regions, but, things are spread out still across the country. But for the northern teams, it's always a challenge.
And consistent with the city of Omaha being such a welcoming community, we took great pride in especially those new teams that came in. Everybody got on board. It wasn't pretty much about each individual team as it was about the College World Series and the fact that we wanted to be good hosts and make these kids their once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to come to Omaha and play for the national championship. And those were the years for sure.
And I think when you hear some feedback from the players later, I represent the Optimist clubs, and I know that one of my contacts down at Mississippi State had mentioned that one of their players, as he got his degree and began his career in local business, actually was in Tupelo, Mississippi, actually joined the Optimist Club because he had such a good time. So, and you think of the 7 other service clubs in Offutt and the impact we're having on those young student athletes. And I remember there was a situation the year we hosted Rice where Coach Graham was in a hurry to leave, and one of the players came up and said, hey, go ask him about Casey Stengel. I think they had played together in the minors, and 20 minutes later when, Coach Graham finished the story, and he almost talked like how he walked, that slow stride out there. And but then the player told me later, he says, I'm going to dental school next year, and no one's going to ask me to sign an autograph. So I want to make sure I can sign every autograph and make every sure young person, So it meant a lot to the players as well as to the young ball players and young kids that were getting autographs and engaging with these athletes in Omaha.
And it wasn't just the athletes, Fred, as you call. The coaches had a real fondness for this event. And I think it was Jim Brock who passed away, sadly, cancer. But his wife, his widow, kept coming back year in and year out, every year after his death, because this was such a big thing to her and to the family. And the hosting of something like that was wonderful. And you find out how creative the fans can be. They come back, too. LSU are kind of my favorite because those fans have always been really warm and friendly. They didn't come in with an attitude. They just came in and said, we love our team, and we want to enjoy Omaha. And they were smart. They would buy zoo memberships just so that they could park at the zoo and never had to worry about parking at the stadium. They would... I had one couple that came and said they were on their honeymoon and they couldn't get any tickets, and could I help them as the ticket chair? I said, sure. I mean, it's your honeymoon. And find out later, after the series was over, it wasn't their honeymoon, but I made it a fun time for them by allowing them to go to the College World Series. And so, like I said, they were very creative in the way that they got their tickets and throwing the beads and all the other fun things. And to this day, I see LSU fans even when the team's not here, and that's a testament to Omaha and the welcoming thing. We always said we were family friendly, and the biggest smile on my face comes on Father's Day, and that's when we see fathers and sons and grandfathers and enjoying the togetherness of a really fan friendly event. And probably the one of the greatest father-son duos were the people that managed the box office there, Eddie and Mike Subject. Eddie was in his 90s, still managing all of the revenue that came in through the box office at Rosenblatt Stadium. And his son, who had moved out of town, came back every year for 2 weeks to be with his father, especially on Father's Day, to be a part of this event that we call the College World Series. So you and I have both been around a long time. The saddest day for me was 2020 when COVID canceled the series, my wife told me to get out of the house because I didn't want me hanging around. And that's because every summer the month of June was dedicated to the College World Series.
Yeah, the COVID year was kind of interesting where,
That's the year that I got kicked out of my volunteer job because the NCAA decided that people standing in line close to each other probably wasn't a good idea post-COVID. So they turned the general admission seats into reserve seats, and they've never looked back. But the one thing that they have done and still accommodate is the afternoon games are relatively reasonable, and we take care of the thousands of teams that come to town and play in all these tournaments, the little leaguers, and they always get a chance to come out. And Fred, probably one of the greatest thrills I had was to meet, remember Spike Owens? He was a shortstop. I can't remember what team he was from, but he brought his son because his son was playing in the tournament. And to see a former player bring his son was really part of something special.
I think Peyton Manning's son was playing in one of the tournaments last year too, and he was here in Tennessee. And so, yeah, that's I think it was Alex Cora that had played for Miami.
Yep.
He actually had been played in one of the tournaments. I remember greeting them at the airport, and he said it was his second time back to Nebraska from playing in a tournament when he was like 12 or 13 years old. So, it's I think memories are kind of what it's all about, and I think baseball is good for that. I think one of the things where baseball doesn't have a time clock. You never know how long the game's going to be. You got plenty of time to be bonding with your family and your friends. And what I enjoy is the fans. Like you said, they do come back every year, whether it be from Arizona, Louisiana, Texas, that become part of your CWS family.
Yeah, I think our season ticket holder list covers about every state but 4 states, as I recall. That people actually own the tickets, and it's not cheap to come back for 2 weeks and stay at a hotel, but a lot of these fans just said, this is our event, this is our annual pilgrimage, and they love doing that. And we've been rewarded by having visitors come in from all over the world, including one president who threw out the first pitch back, 2011, something like that? Or was it earlier, 2001? Might have been earlier than that.
Yeah, it was
but
President Bush. I remember at Roosevelt with the entourage. And
the entourage and the Secret Service people, and I thought, here's my chance to really shake hands with the president. Unfortunately, the mayor at the time, Hal Dobb, was in front of me in the line, and I didn't get a chance to shake the president's hand, but I shook Hal's hand, so I was close. I shook the hand that shook the hand of the president. Remember Rosenblatt had the Stadium View Club, and every now and then you'd see a who's who of Hall of Famers visiting because Rawlings was one of the sponsors being involved in the College World Series. And one of my greatest days ever was to sit there watching Rod Dado, the legendary USC coach, sitting next to Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, Reggie Jackson, and Ted Sizemore. And they were all at the College World Series watching kids play for the love of the game.
Yeah, it's been amazing over the years. So,
you know what else was amazing? Jack Payne. You think about a guy who spent over 30 years in that booth, over, I think, 500 consecutive games. And there was something about Jack that brought this event to a uniqueness because he was so fan-friendly and so entertaining, whether it was keep the beach balls off the field, scooch in, you need more, we got to break the attendance record, or, even bring your mother-in-law if you want to. Those kind of things that were kind of fun to hear.
Yeah, Jack had some great lines, and I remember some of the scooch in so we could squeeze a few more people in, just like, get to know your neighbor.
Yeah.
And Jack was a legendary broadcaster and one of a kind. And, there were a lot of people, you mentioned Ed Subject, that people made an impact on growing this event. And it's been in Omaha 75 years. And I know Amy mentioned, the 3 years prior, if anyone really remembers, Wichita and Kalamazoo?
Kalamazoo twice, and then Wichita, yeah.
So, the fact that civic leaders in Omaha took a chance and brought this event and, nurtured it. I mean, it's like watching something grow or, raising a child where, the event was not necessarily well attended. I had mentioned in the 60s that Dad would come home from work and, you just go get a GA ticket. The stadium was not sold out. But now to look at the crowds and, I think it's probably the largest single sporting event in state of Nebraska. I mean, you think about it for almost 2 weeks and all the activity and the youth tournaments it brings in. I know last year we hosted Tennessee, and some Tennessee parents were actually staying in Lincoln because they couldn't find an affordable room close. So it's a tremendous economic impact on both sides of the river, and just a great event.
Yeah, friends of mine came by motorhome even, and they would set up at different places because that worked good for them. So a lot of great memories in all these years, and it was just something that Omaha has really embraced. And when it's all said and done, we all look at each other and said, let's start planning for next year. And that's kind of the way this thing has worked forever and ever. And it'll be changing. There'll be more changes announced down the road, but really to make it better for the coaches and the athletes. But what we really want is that no one else will be able to take this event from Omaha. We still have several years left on our contract, but we really want to make sure that it stays here forever. And I think that's why you see stadium upgrades every year. That's why you see people who really support this series continuing to volunteer, which a lot of people do, just to be good hosts for the event. How many season ticket holders volunteered to hold a big flag out in the outfield, which will come during one of the games coming up? We just, boom, that was it. And our fans are loyal, but they're also vocal. And I had the opportunity as the ticket chair to have to map the seating from Rosenblatt Stadium to Schwab Field. And in order to do that, you had to go from one configuration to another. And we tried to do it fairly by computer. And so when it was all said and done, what I found out is that even though I got everybody seated in the new stadium, I broke up neighborhoods of people that have been in the same section, same row for years and years and years. And now they are orphaned. They're in a different section. And over the last 10 years, we've allowed people to apply to get their seats relocated closer to where their friends and were. And that has worked out pretty good. But that was something I never thought would happen, that people were so protective of the friendships that they made at the stadium. And they've seen kids and grandkids grow up. And that was the beauty of this whole event. It wasn't so much about the teams on the field. It was about the fans in the stands who really embraced it, and for personal reasons. They really felt that the friends that they meet in this event are good, true friends, good Nebraska or from elsewhere. And they've maintained relationships forever and ever.
Yeah, it's we were in Section S in Rosenblatt, and with Patty Gallus from Creighton and her late husband Ray and their kids and grandkids, and it was interesting watching everyone grow. And we actually kind of kept in touch a little bit. My family seats are out in 123 to 122 somewhere out there, and you get those relationships. I mean, it's very interesting. One of the nurses at my doctor's office is a CWS refugee from Louisiana. They actually came up one year, LSU fans, and decided they liked Omaha and decided to stay.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, one of the few persons ever said, that it's less humid up here.
Yeah, well, I will tell you that Rosenblatt had its share of fans. Some of the happiest moments of my life was getting out there early on a Saturday morning, getting up in the press box, and just watching Jesse Cuevas and his ground crew, how meticulously they kept that field and how they did what they did. And, that was something special to behold. And I really thought that was great for not only the city, but when we did finally move, and I think what took place to even have that thought about moving was a lot of the other college teams were building new stadiums. And so we still wanted a newer stadium. Rosenblatt, as much as we love the county fair atmosphere, I don't know, Fred, you probably were in a few rain delays. I was, and you could definitely tell when you got in the bowels of that stadium who didn't take a shower that day, because it was really wall-to-wall people for sometimes a pretty long period of time in order to get a game restarted. So the new stadium comes with, a little different situation. But has it changed, I used to give a scalper report every year at Rosenblatt. They used undercover narcotics police detectives to bust the people that were scalping tickets. Now, it's the NCAA that's scalping tickets through the secondary ticket markets, and they approve it. They encourage it.
Illegal scalping.
Yep. So it is what it is, but it is true. Like I said, it's truly one event that we can be so proud of in Omaha. And, the mayor, the governor, all the folks involved think, wow, we want to keep this going.
Oh, it's definitely a great economic driver for the area. So I have to ask you quick, because I'm kind of a foodie and do my hashtag food with Fred. Ballpark food, what's your favorite?
Oh, man, having spent a great deal of my life at ballparks, I am still a basic hot dog guy, more than anything else. So I'm your really regular baseball fan who would love to have a hot dog or two. Although I wouldn't mind getting up to the press box to see what the press people get, because they get all sorts of food every year during the opening press conference. The folks at Levy Food Service introduce new specials for the event. But I'm really not a risk taker. I'm a big hot dog kind of guy, Fred.
I agree. I'm probably Chicago dog is my go-to. Mustard, ketchup.
There you go. Ketchup for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of hot dog purists are probably cringing right now. I always tell people, hey, a good hot dog is whatever you enjoy. So
right.
But I appreciate you taking time. We're getting close to the end here. It's been a pleasure. I guess I've known you for 35, 40 years now. You think about it. It's when the lease was signed at then TD Ameritrade, now Schwab Field, for 25 years. It seemed like a long time, but
we're almost halfway through it.
Yeah, well, actually more. It'd be year 15. So I'm assuming those conversations have started already. And
Yep. And we have, a contract has a look back period where every couple of years we can look back and see, has the environment changed to where the contract isn't doing what we both expected it to do. And for the most part, we've made minor tweaks, but nothing major going on. And I think, what's the surrounding clouds are the big conferences that are doing their own thing with football, and how will that impact baseball? And how will NIL impact baseball? Well, you look at some of the new teams that are on the list in the super regionals, and you see some teams that maybe NIL did help them land a few people that will put that team in a better position to compete for the national championships. But it's still the same every year when that kid comes in and he looks at what that field is all about, and he sees 25,000 people in the stands, and he says, wow. I do miss the net behind home plate where the foul ball would roll that up there, and there's always the one little ball girl that would come and try to catch it and get booed if she missed it. You remember those days.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I had some visitors from out of town. I thought, well, that's kind of rude. I said, no, it's just part tradition. The girls that, gives them an incentive to make sure they catch the ball, and if they don't, it's all in good-natured fun. So,
and for folks who are interested in the history of the College World Series, there's a couple of books out there. I think just Google College World Series books, and you'll find a couple of them that in detail have looked at the series from the early years as well as more recently, being the 90s and the early 2000s. And they really tell a good story about Omaha and about this event. And it's nice to become more of a national fixture now than just a regional fixture. And when you hear about Omaha, Fred, besides hot dogs, I suppose, I would think about the College World Series.
Well, I think college stadiums, ballparks all around the country, you're seeing in the locker room the road to Omaha. So, it definitely is a goal, I think, for some of the clubs every year, for some of the up-and-coming. We always have the Cinderellas, and this year you've got the University of Texas at San Antonio. You've got Murray State. So, it should be fun. So, but all right, Herb. Well, thank you. I want to thank Herb Hames and Amy Hornocker from the College World Series. So hopefully this has given you a behind-the-scenes look at the College World Series and everything that's involved in Omaha's greatest sporting event. Again, I'm Fred Huey. This is the Backroads and Byways podcast, brought to you by Bellino Fireworks, and appreciate you tuning in. Thank you.